Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Yakkity Yak Fishing Podcast. I hope everybody's doing great today. Hope if you do get to go fishing, I hope you catch a toad. If you got a goal you're taking care of today, I hope you get it taken care of. If all that good stuff. Everybody should be having a good day. Everybody should be having a good time, and everybody be safe and enjoy the sport of fishing. And yeah, so welcome in, welcome. Rhonda, good morning. Avid, good morning, and Rustic, good morning. Hope you three are doing fantastic. Anybody joining us from Facebook? Again, welcome in. We are streaming both the YouTube and Facebook at this point. It's been good. I mean, this episode, I can't remember the number anymore. I really don't. I think this is either 6 or 7. I mean, it's been going good. I missed last week due to unforeseen scheduling conflicts, but it's been really good. I've really enjoyed it. I know I've had some people reach out to me and say it's been helpful, and that means the world to me. That was the whole point of this, was to help people get back into the sport of fishing, or to get into it in general in the first place. So by actually getting that confirmation from some people has been absolutely fantastic. Listening and driving. On the way to pick up your son again, I'm assuming. Miss Rhonda. Rustic, how'd you do the other day chasing flatheads? I know you said you were going to chase flatheads. Yeah, I think you said yesterday you were going to. Hope you caught some. I didn't see any pictures on Facebook. That doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't. It just means I didn't see it. So, just curious. Avid, hope you got to go fishing this weekend at some point. But yeah, so we've been talking the last few weeks about fish identification, basics on gear, basic strategies, basic watercraft. Being able to put all these things together to catch fish has been the goal of the show. But today I want to talk specifically about using the things that we've talked about, and maybe a couple of little oddball things that I haven't mentioned that you may hear about or have questions about, and form a game plan. Once you decide you're going on a fishing trip, there are things you can do both pre, during, and post trip that will allow you to not only get on the fish faster, but to stay on the fish, and then again, hopefully catch the fish of your dreams. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated. Just like before, fishing doesn't have to be complicated. It's just a matter of, like I said, thinking things through, putting it together, taking all the pieces of the puzzle, putting them all out in front of you, assembling them all together, and then, like I said, eventually catching the fish of your dreams. So, like I said, today we're talking about setting up a game plan. Just like a game of chess, there's tons of pieces. There's tons of little things you can think about, but it's the way you play those pieces and the way you think about using those pieces that allow you to checkmate the fish. So, yeah, let's just get into it. So, like I said, pre-trip, one of the first things you can think about when it comes to pre-trip fishing is to look up fishing reports, or look at Facebook groups, or just talk to local buddies and friends that have been fishing. Find out what they're catching, find out what they're catching them on, find out what areas they're catching them in, all that good stuff. I mean, if you find somebody, hey, say you're going bass fishing, I caught 22 bass on this particular flat or this area, targeting these specific pieces of structure. Like, oh, hey, I fished a grass line all day. 18 of those fish came off a grass line. 5 of them came out from open water. Well, then obviously their pattern was they're on the weeds. So keeping that in mind and having that knowledge, oh, hey, okay, maybe if I'm going to go fishing for bass, I should go target these grass flats or these grass lines or just the weedy areas, because people are catching fish there. And that goes the same for catfish or anything else. Like, oh, hey, I caught I only caught 3 fish, but they were all 20 pounds plus off of a ledge, off of a creek mouth. Okay, so try to find an area like that if you want fish that are 20 pounds, catfish that are 20 pounds. And what they were using for bait. Oh, I was using bluegill today. Okay, so maybe take some bluegill and maybe throw in something else, just in case that one oddball big fish really wants something else. Using what other people are doing, what other people are saying they're using to catch these fish, can give you a heads up and a head start on the day when it comes to your fishing trip. And again, this is one of those pre-trip type things where you can really get this information before you go. But then when you do go, you're automatically more efficient because you already know one, what has been working. You know what area to target, and specifically, you know, that, oh, hey, people are catching that species I'm after. Now, granted, this is not 100%. This is just again a piece or a tool to use to try to get you um, ahead of the game. You know, obviously, fishing is fishing. There are going to be days where you absolutely know everything going on. You have them dialed in 100%. Oh, hey, 10 minutes ago, this guy caught 12 fish in a row, but you get there and they're not biting anymore. I mean, it happens. But barring that situation, you're going to be way ahead of the game, way ahead of the curve by getting this information before you go. Shirley, good morning. Brandon, Outdoors Adventures, good morning. Rhonda, I appreciate that. Just so you know, as of tomorrow, with the exception of the talking to the chats and a couple of hiccups here and there that I cut out, all of the polished versions of the show are actually getting released as a podcast on YouTube and on Spotify. Both of them are video podcasts, so you can, if you don't want to catch all the chat necessarily, or all the chitter chatter, what we want to call it, all the oddball stuff that doesn't necessarily match the topic for that day. I definitely have that coming out, and then most of them I've just finished all the other episodes. They are all coming out in the morning at 7 a.m. on YouTube, so you can easily watch those instead and save you a little bit of time. I know that one particular one with the fish identification, I was able to cut off 20 minutes of that long one. You know, I mean, I like to talk. It is what it is. You know, that's part of the reason we do these lives. Is I do like to talk to people, and I hope they get the chance to talk back. If they got questions, they can ask. All that good stuff. It's fishing for me is just as much of it. I love it myself, but I have just as much of it fun. I have just as much fun talking to other people that fish as well, or love that sport, or you know, just in general, good people, and they want to talk. I'm more than happy to talk. So as I talked about in the beginning, as you guys have seen in the past episodes, I have a topic. I try to cover it as not necessarily as quick as possible, but as thoroughly as possible, but trying to maintain it so it's it's not just a chatterbox show. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but I personally don't have time for that. And so, yeah, I just try to give everybody the information as fast as I can, within reason, and then get questions back and feedback. And I think it's working well, and I appreciate everybody for coming in. But yeah, so fishing reports, information, Facebook groups, all that good stuff. Get this information beforehand. It's going to make deciding what you're going to fish for a lot easier, and it makes the next few steps even easier, because what you do, or what you're going after, I should say, will completely dictate your fishing technique. 100%. If you're going to fish for something that lives on the bottom, well, then obviously you're going to do some sort of bottom fishing technique, whether it be Carolina rigging, Texas rigging, split shot rigging. Anything that has a weight that's going to pin that bait to the bottom is more likely to do well for that species, as opposed to having a piece of bait under a bobber, or fishing a lure that's completely floating on top. I mean, what you're fishing for can be completely dictate what you guys are going after. You know, obviously, if I'm going for catfish, they live more on the bottom. They're swimming tongues that we talked about in the fish identification video. They have taste buds everywhere. They have lateral lines, all that good stuff. So they can find stuff in dirty, dingy, dark water, or at night even, very easily. But if blue cats are notorious for this sort of channels, if they want to suspend, well, then obviously, if I'm in 40 feet of water, is a lot lower, right? But if I'm able to put my bait around where the bait is, the actual schools of bait are, or above, then I'm gonna do better for those. But at the same time, if they are pinned to the bottom, or if I'm fishing shallower water, which the biggest thing for the suspending stuff is based on the thermocline, but that's not something I'm going to cover in this series, because it's a little more advanced and a little hard to explain to somebody who's never been around it. But the idea is that there's this line where hot and cold meet and the oxygen levels change. The bait hover around that. And so all the fish are going to hover around that as well. One, because they can breathe better, but two, because where all the food is. So with that being said, if I'm fishing a spot that the bait is all higher or lower, then I want to try to keep my bait around the same spot. Then again, if I'm fishing, 10 feet or less, and I'm fishing for fish that's based on sight, such as bluegill or bass, well, then um, having a bait under a float or closer to the top of the water is perfectly fine because they're going to see it. And that's what you want. You want to take advantage of your species uh, characteristics on their bodies. Obviously, if they have really, really good eyesight, then you're going to use something that has bright colors or a lot of flash uh, to try to get their attention. And it gives you just a better chance of one, getting their attention, but two, being able to take advantage of those features to put yourself on more fish. Big Slim 91. Oh, excuse me, guys. Sorry. Big Slim, good morning. Hope you're doing fantastic. Hope everybody's doing fantastic. I know I repeat that a lot, but I really do. You guys make my day on Saturdays and Sundays. But yeah. So being able to knowing what species you're going after changes a lot of things. And like I said, the biggest thing that changes right off the bat is what technique you're going to use. But the next thing it's going to change a lot of is your other conditions of the area, right? Your species decision makes the biggest difference no matter what. The other stuff's a little more out of your control, but determining what that is can make a big difference. Weather's a big one. All right. If it's been sunny and not raining, water's probably low. Water's probably clear, especially if you're fishing a grassy lake. Then obviously, again, you're taking advantage of those species that find food based on sight. Or if you are 100% just buried in the grass, then you're using things that are based on smell and other stuff as well, because obviously they're having to sift through that weeds to find that bait, such as carp fishing or catfishing. But generally speaking, you're going to be basing what you're fishing for. The weather will affect it. If you're fishing a lot of grass, again, I'm going to use bass for example. You see a lot of people that use like chatterbaits in grass because they put off a lot of vibration as well. That is because of those weeds. Those weeds will often get in the way of sight for those fish. So having that extra vibration can help overcome the fact that, oh, hey, they probably can't see it because the weeds are blocking the sight. But at the same time, if you're fishing really muddy water, and say you're fishing for catfish or carp, you're probably going to want to use something that's more heavily scented, whether it be an absolute bloody, oily piece of fresh bait, or whether it be garlic coated chicken or garlic hot dogs or whatever Kool-Aid hot dogs, whatever floats your boat, right? Something that has a little more scent, or maybe even a little more color in the case like Jello or Kool-Aid chicken, where you've made it a bright red or a bright green or something. And it goes, and that again, that part also directly translates over to like bass fishing and stuff too. Changing the colors on stuff based on water conditions, based on weather conditions is huge. You'll often hear a lot of times people that are using spoons or any kind of metallic spinnerbait blade or anything like that, that if it's sunny, they're running a silver blade. And again, this is only if they're using non-colored blades, right? Either using a silver blade or a gold blade. Silver blade for sunny weather because it picks up the sun and reflects real good. If it's overcast, though, you see a lot of people switch to gold, and it's kind of a common practice, especially up north with jigging spoons and stuff like that. That gold will offset the fact that the sun's not shining to give a little more sight, a little more color for those fish to see. And the vibration number changes, but again, that just depends on what you're doing, right? You have your chatterbaits, your buzz baits, spinner baits, all those put off vibration, even those little inline spinners. But the shape of the blade can change the way the vibration goes. Like the Colorado blades put off more vibration than the willow blades. And the chatterbaits, when they make ones that have plastic blades instead of metal blades, and all those do different stuff on different baits for different fish. And you got to think about it from your aspect too, right? So if you're going to go fishing and it's been 100 degrees and it's supposed to be sunny and hot all day, well, that's going to change what you bring for comfort. It's also going to change a couple other things we're going to talk about here in a few minutes for you, based on not only comfort, but based on where the fish could be and all that good stuff. And again, it's all based on the weather. If it's going to be cold and cloudy, well, I'm probably going to wear an extra jacket. If it's going to be really cold, I'm probably wearing extra pants, right? I mean, just or maybe even not going at all. Depends on my comfort level and what I got going on that day. But either way, you have to take your comfort into consideration too when it comes to weather, because if you are not out on the water fishing, then you're not going to catch anything. Flat out. You got to be out there as long as possible. Put your baits in front of fish as long as possible. Effective baits on a repeating pattern that you've discovered or think you're finding. Like today, we're setting up the pattern to try to start with, right? If this one doesn't work, you can adjust it here and there, yada, yada, try to figure it out. But by having the pattern to start with, when you do go out there and get going, it makes it much easier to adjust and much easier to catch fish later on because of the fact that you were prepared to start with. So yeah, weather is a big one. And again, it's just like the fishing reports. Once you know what you want to catch, what you know people are catching stuff on, or a couple, and the best way to do is have a couple of things they're catching them on, right? Say, oh, hey, they're catching them on chatterbaits and Carolina rig worms for bass fishing. Okay, cool. I have two different options. One's for if it's really weedy, one's for if it's cleaner bottom. Well, is the weather going to change the way those work? Well, if it's really cloudy, the chatterbait may not work as well because the blade color may not be seen. But at the same time, if it's cloudy and the fish aren't relying on sight as much or the water is dirtier, then having that blade and that vibration is going to make a big difference versus that Carolina rig worm that does not put a ton of vibration out. At that point, they're purely on sight and hitting those clear bottom areas. Those may not work as well on a muddy day. Same with catfishing. If I'm using live bluegill or live bait, if they can't see it, it may not matter. But at the same time, if I cut it up and it's bleeding and they can smell it, well, then I'm had a better chance when it comes to dirtier, cleaner water or being nighttime. Rustic, I usually do too. Yeah, again, that for me, it's more of a comfort thing. You know, if it's not overly sunny and just bearing down on me, I'm more willing to move and try new things and stuff like that. If it's really, really hot, I'm picking a spot under a tree and I'm sitting for a while, you know? So I definitely understand that entirely. Sorry to hear your boat's in the shop. Hope everything's good, or hope it's not going to be there forever. Like to see you get out there and fishing more soon. All right. So the next thing that makes a big difference when it comes to fishing and doing a pre-game plan or pre-trip plan is bait access. What bait do you have available? It doesn't matter if it's artificial. It doesn't matter if it's live. Sorry. It doesn't matter if it's artificial or if it's live. What do you have available? What do you have that you can get a hold of? What has been working? What's currently in season, if you will, right? You'll see, and this goes for any kind of hunting, fishing, anything like that. If you translate it directly into deer hunting, if there's an acorn tree and the acorns haven't started falling yet, well, then probably using acorn for bait is not going to be good, right? At the same time, if the corn just got harvested and there's tons of it around, well, then putting another pile there might just be the ticket. Might be just what they wanted. But at the same time, if you don't have an apple orchard at all, throwing out a pile of apples, it might get the attention of one or two, but it's not going to make sense. They might think something's fishy. These are, I'm not saying they're not intelligent creatures, but they're definitely not to the level that we are, right? But they do have their own sets of instincts, their own set of intellectual ability, if you will. And they can figure some stuff out. And putting something out there that's that fishy or smells funny or anything like that could be a turn off just as much as it can be a turn on for them as well. Same with fishing. You know, if I'm taking, catfish, if you take something that's like a meat like substance, spam, hot dogs, chicken, all that good stuff, you can catch catfish on it. But it may not be the best thing for them that day. And you may not ever catch a trophy one because those fish know, hey, that's not normal. That's not normal food. And again, it goes back to what we talked about with basic watercraft. We talk about the fish behaviors and stuff like that, learning from Dr. A's studies and stuff. Fish learn things and they set up a pattern and they generally follow it, but there's always gonna be a few outliers. So you may catch one random 80-pound fish on chicken liver or something, but it's not something that's repeatable. Therefore, it's not a pattern, right? So having that bait access, knowing what's going on, knowing, oh, hey, it's been raining. Oh, hey, so there's probably some more worms in the water than normal. That might be better today. Oh, hey, the crawfish just spawned. They came out of the mud. they're nice and soft shelled. Everything's eating them because they're nice little juicy morsels. Well, then maybe I probably choose crayfish that day instead. Oh, hey, the threadfin shad are schooling up really hard and they're running the ledges up and down. Okay, well, I'm probably going to want to use something that's shad shaped, or actually use shad itself. Same with skipjack. Skipjack chase the shad. If you get a ton of skipjack around all of a sudden, that's going to be a good bait to use. Bigger fish are going to be hitting those schools, tearing them up. You're going to have little bloody pieces everywhere that everything's going after. Stuff like that. Think about what's going on. Again, weather, fish reports, all that stuff. Get what people are telling you, and then see what you have the best access to. Hey, everybody's been catching them on chatterbaits, but all I have is a spinnerbait. Well, spinnerbait's probably better than just a floating worm or a frog, right? Simply because it's similar, right? So, and I'm not saying don't try other stuff, but if you're going to be starting to set up a game plan to put yourself on a successful fishing trip as fast as possible and as reasonably as possible, then by using something that's very similar to what has been working, or has something that has a very similar concept based on all these aspects you were planning, are going to put you on, are more likely to put you on more fish sooner and more fish faster than using something completely random out of the box that nobody's ever heard of or nobody's ever thrown. And again, I'm not saying don't ever try that stuff, but say you only have an hour to fish. I would rather go out there, fish for this hour using something that has been working than to go out there and just try something, because I want to catch fish. I'm assuming y'all want to catch fish. I want to catch fish. That's what you do. Try to make something that matches the hatch, if you will, and just do it. Taking these concepts, taking these other things we talked about, putting it all together, making a pre-trip plan will give you more success in the water. Everything affects the plan. If you're using a bait that would fall into water, whether it be nuts, berries, worms, when night crawlers could top worms, any kind of bugs, anything like that, then obviously you can use those in multiple ways. There's eventually going to be waterlogged, they're going to sink, so you can literally fish them in every part of the water column. So you can fish them under a float, you can fish them on a bottom rig, because those fish have seen them all the way through the water column. If you're using bait that hugs the bottom naturally, such as crayfish, well, you probably don't want to put a crayfish under a float, because why is the crayfish going to be, several feet or multiple feet off the bottom? No reason for it. Same with using clams. Clams always hug the bottom of the water. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. The fish are going to know that. Granted, there's going to be some outliers or maybe some young fish that don't understand, but any fish has been around for a while, especially if you're going after trophy fish, they're going to know that something's up. Like I talked about earlier, if the weather is sunny, it could affect the color of the lure. If the water clarity's garbage, then maybe use a slower technique, use something with more vibration or something with a really crazy color. I know that when I fish muddy water for just general any species fishing, using a Demiki rig or something like that, then I'm gonna fish something that has a chartreuse paint on it at some point. It gives it a little bit of scent, gives it a little bit of color, makes it pop in that muddy water, so that way the fish can find what you're throwing, and you're more likely to catch them. But again, all these factors affect everything. Everything affects the plan. Everything. By planning this stuff out ahead of time, using the fishing reports, using the Facebook groups, checking the weather, checking your bait accessibility, all that stuff. You can literally be like, oh, hey, this has been working. This has been working. I have this, but I have this, which is similar. Okay, cool. You have two techniques you can try. And that can make the world of difference, make all the difference in the world when it comes to getting on fish and staying on fish. And then you got other factors. Day of the week. What day of the week you fishing? If you're in a really, I live on Lake Chickamauga. I actually live between Chickamauga and Yakkity Yak, but we're close by to both. But if you have a ton of tournaments going on, there's gonna be boats all the time. And then on top of that, weekends, there's pleasure boaters out everywhere. Some of them are in your spot, some of them aren't in your spot, some of them are near your spots making a ton of noise. All that stuff can make a big difference, right? If I'm gonna fish during the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, to me that's perfect. Will I fish weekends? Of course, because you go when you can. But I feel like, typically speaking, I'm gonna have better luck during the week where there's less boat traffic, less tournament traffic. and Thursday and Friday are kind of the outliers on that because a lot of tournaments still let you do pre-fishing or practice. So those guys will show up for the weekend tournament a couple of days early in practice. So then you have a bunch of them out on Thursday and Friday practicing for the tournament starting Saturday. And keeping that in mind can make a big difference. So if I have a tournament coming up this weekend, I know that Thursday is going to be like my last possible chance to have spots or the lake to myself to an extent because everything else is going to get swamped by tournament anglers pretty soon by Friday. I know that Saturday, I'm probably better off fishing somewhere where that either that tournament's not at. Like if it's up on Chickamauga, I'm going to fish below the dam instead, kind of thing. Or if the tournament is on Saturday, then I know on Sunday I probably want to stay away from that area as well because that spot's been fished out and pressured really, really hard all of a sudden. So the fish may have lockjaw at that point, right? So knowing the day of the week makes a big difference. Knowing if there's tournaments makes a big difference. But then the last thing is spot access. If you go, hey, I'm going to fish this lake. I have 3 spots I can fish from the bank. There's only 4 spots available for people to fish for publicly. Well, you know that on the weekend, you're going to have a really hard time getting one of those spots because everybody else can be going for them too because it's only 4 around. At that point, hey, is there a way I can get a boat? Is there a way I can take out a kayak, take a canoe out, stuff that can change your spot access. And one of the other big things with the spot access we can talk about here is that you can use tools such as Google Earth and avionics to choose spots. Google Earth, you look at the body of water you're fishing, you can look around, look for boat ramps. You can look for sidewalks, parks, all that good stuff. You can even find other bodies of water you didn't know existed. I've recently found some ponds and some oxbows and a couple extra creeks that I wasn't aware actually had enough water to contain fish and be worth fishing just in this last year. And it can be worthwhile to go check those spots out, make a separate trip, do a little spot hopping, I call it, take an afternoon. Hey, I can hit this spot, and this spot and see what I see. And just go out there and throw some stuff and see what happens. And that can make a big difference for you later on when, oh, hey, well, I had 3 spots. Now I have 4 spots, or now I have 6 spots that I can go check out or try to fish at. And it can make a big difference. But then you can use things like Navionics where you literally take the body of the water as long as it's traversable by boat or, whether it be bass fishing, whether it be barges, whether it be any of those big boats. And what happens is all their depth finders and depth equipment, if they're attached to the Navionics server at all, then it'll automatically record those depths, and it collects it all into these charts, and you can get them for free. If you go to navionics.com, just click on the chart viewer, you can pull it up in your browser and look at it for free. But it is one of the few apps that I use that I am 100% believing on purchasing, because even if you don't have data on the water, you can actually load it before you get there, and you can actually use it to be able to look for stuff. So having that little bit extra security and safety built into this thing that I can pull on my phone has been fantastic. Especially when we fishing the kayak, I'm supposed to avoid that with that Hobie and the pedal drive. You're supposed to avoid water that's less than 4 feet, because then you're getting close to possibly tapping the fins on the bottom, which on that particular model, I have the older fins so they can break. So being able to see, oh, hey, this is a really shallow area. I need to be careful when I'm over here. Hey, this is a really deep area. It's all holds bark, pedals fast I want here, stuff like that. But it also helps you find contour lines of structure. Oh, hey, I have this flat piece of bank, but if you look underwater, oh, hey, there's a point right here. Well, that's going to be a good spot to put bait. Put one on both sides and one on top. Fish are going to be cruising through there, hitting that point on the way when they're running up the bank. So it's a good little spot to kind of corner the fish, if you will. Same if you're looking at a bridge. Oh, hey, under this bridge, I have a really deep channel in between the second and third pillar. Okay, well, then that's probably going to be some sort of a highway for certain fish species, or just on that ledge on the shallower, like where the shallow goes to the deep part of that ledge. So maybe I'm going to cast right at that second pillar and catch fish that are riding the ledge back and forth under the bridge, right? Stuff like that. Looking at all this stuff before your trip is going to set you up for success. Let's talk about during the trip. Are you catching fish? If you are catching fish, then there's not necessarily a reason to change anything. Um, if fishing has slowed down, like if you say you're on a school of fish, say you've been on a boat using a fish finder, or if you're on a guided trip with somebody and they put you on a school of fish, I'm sure they're going to tell you this too. If you're fishing at a school of fish, you know they're there. You've been catching something, all of a sudden it stops. Well, is there something else you can try? Bring out that second technique. Bring out a third technique. Try casting those fish again. Something a little bit different could be just enough to spark a feeding frenzy again. And that can be the difference between a ton of fish and it can be the difference between no fish. Having that ability to change something on the fly, especially on longer trips, is going to be a complete game changer. But let's say it's the opposite. Say you weren't catching fish at all. Are you at least seeing fish? Are you seeing bait jump? Are you seeing fish clear the water in the sense of like carp or bass? Are you seeing activity? If you are not seeing activity, then it might be time to consider changing a spot. Again, back to the whole pre-trip part of this. If you are looking at spots, maybe have one or two picked out as well. For situations like this. If you're not seeing fish, you can go to this other spot and try there quick. Between that pre-trip planning and the stuff you do during the trip, keep staying on those fish, keeping on those fish, and just staying aware of what's going on could be the difference between catching any fish at all, but two, catching bigger fish or just a load of fish. Because again, if you're not catching fish, why aren't you catching fish? Are you in the wrong spot? Are you using the wrong bait? Did you completely plan the trip wrong? Did the weather completely change while you're out because the weatherman couldn't tell the weather, because it happens more often than it should? I mean, stuff like that, right? So if you're going out there and it was supposed to be sunny and all of a sudden it went cloudy, well, hopefully you brought some darker colors with you, or hopefully you brought some, in the sense of spinner baits, maybe some gold blades instead of silver blades so you can change them out. Stuff like that, being able to adapt on the fly is going to make a big difference on your success for the trip. But again, if you're not seeing anything, then it's possibly time to change spots. And then post-trip. All right, so you guys went fishing. You may or may not have caught some fish. You may or may not have caught some bait. Well, when you go to leave, try to think about what happened that day that fed your success or that fed your failure. You're right. I mean, not every fishing trip isn't going to be perfect. There's going to be trips where you go out and don't catch anything. Skunk, whatever you want to call it. It's just the way it is. But you may have caught something, and maybe you're going to eat it. Or maybe you caught a bunch of extra bait because you found a school of skipjack. So you called in a bunch of skipjack for later. Okay, so now you're going to try to freeze them or get them ready for the next trip. And that allows you to start preparing for your next trip, right? It can be, whether it be just from information, whether it be you caught a bunch of bait, whether it be you found a new spot, all this stuff can be used to feed in the next trip and the next trip and the next trip. And this is where I talk about feeding those patterns, those repeatable patterns, finding those, being able to keep them in your memory bank, for later. Being able to pull these out later. Oh, hey, on this particular day in the spring 3 years ago, I had this exact same scenario, and the only way I caught fish was XYZ bait. Okay, great. You have a starting point for the next time you go. Now, how do you remember all this stuff? Well, in my case, since I do run the YouTube channel, I do have the videos where I can kind of see what's going on, and it sparks my memory because, oh, hey, I remember that trip, What a lot of people do, and I used to do, and I still do occasionally when I remember to do it, is I have a logbook. You can get them at Walmart. You can get just a regular piece of little regular college rule paper binder journal thing. Anything you use for school. Write the date, write the weather, write how the water was, where you were, what you caught, what you saw, anything like that. And again, you can use that later on. And by doing stuff like that, you can eliminate water, so you're fishing more productive spots. You can eliminate certain baits, so you're using more productive baits. You can eliminate techniques that did or did not work, right? And again, I'm not saying don't ever try something that you've never used before. I'm not saying don't try stuff that people aren't saying works. What I'm saying is, if you want a starting point to get on fish for that day, if you want a higher chance for success, if you're not just trying to learn something new. Like, I've done trips where I've gone out and used technique I've never caught fish with, and I've used it all day trying to build my confidence with it. I know I'm probably going to skunk, but I'm trying to learn that bait. That's fine. You can do that. But if you are out there trying to catch fish or you need to catch fish, say I really hope nobody's in for this situation, but say you have to catch a fish today in order to eat dinner because you have no money or whatever, then obviously you want to try to use something that has been successful for you in the past or has been successful for somebody else recently, so that way you can get food on the table. Being able to use that information to get out there and have a better chance to catch fish right off the bat is going to make a big difference for everybody in their fishing trips and their fishing expeditions, fishing adventures, whatever you want to call it. It's all part of the plan. You have your pre-trip planning. Like I said, you're picking your spots. You're checking the weather. You're checking the fishing reports, Facebook groups, texting your buddy that fished yesterday. Find out what they're using. Find out what they caught. Find out where they were if they're willing to tell you, and use that information to have a starting point. Now, I'm not saying harass everybody for that information either. Like, there's going to be some people that won't want to talk about it. Okay, fine. They're probably never going to talk about it. But the ones that do, and there's more of them than you think, the ones that do will give you a starting point. If they caught them all on grass, well, okay. On Lake Chickamauga, I'm going to fish closer to the bank, with the exception of a couple areas where there's some deep water grass. But I know where those areas are because of past experiences or from people telling me or from seeing tournaments fished. A lot of these patterns for different species of fish are repeatable even on the tournament side of things. They win those tournaments using those techniques for a reason, and you can take advantage of those as an angler too. And that can be as simple as, oh, hey, I watched this YouTuber fish this one tournament in February, and it was really flooded like it is right now, and she went to this specific creek and fished this particular flooded field because it's not normally part of the lake, and was catching all these big bass. Or, oh, hey, water's been really low. It's been really hot. These guys have not been catching catfish during the day. I'm going to fish for them at night. Same with carp. Same with bluegill. Oh, hey, they've been fishing deep trees, all that good stuff. Taking that information and forming this plan is going to make you guys more successful. And whether that be I look at it for 20 minutes and set it up, or, hey, I've planned this trip for the whole week, it does not matter. But the more you think about it, the more detailed you can make it without being overly complicated, right? The better off you're going to be. If you have a week, bust out some maps, bust out Navionics. Oh, hey, I got this spot, and this spot I want to go to. I'm going to take this bait because this guy's been catching it with this. I'm going to take this bait because I remember it being good this time of year. So I have 2 options to go with. I have 3 spots to go. Weather says it's going to be this, but it might be this. So I'm going to take this just in case to keep me more comfortable. So I'll be out fishing longer. You're all set. Then when you get done with your trip, oh, hey, I caught all this extra bait. I'm ready to have this for next time. Oh, hey, I ate this fish. It was delicious. I'm going to catch another one. What did I do? Write it down. Keep track of it. That way you know what to do next time. And that's how you're successful on these fishing trips. You plan the trip out, you execute the plan, and then you write down the results, or remember the results, archive the results, whatever. Use it again next time. And that's all it takes. Plan the trip, execute the trip, record the trip's results. You will establish patterns. You will be able to repeat it, and you'll be more successful getting on fish, and you'll stay on fish longer. It also gives you the ability to adapt on the fly with a backup plan and not be constantly sitting there struggling like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Think about it ahead of time, meditate on it, go with it, and just do it. The sport of fishing is there to be enjoyed. We've talked about other aspects of the sport. This is where it all starts coming together. This is where it makes a difference. This is where you guys will see either success or failure. And the failure is just something to learn from. It's not, oh, hey, you're a bad fisherman. It's, oh, hey, it didn't work today. Not that big of a deal. People do it all the time. There's a reason why those tournament anglers, you see some guys that max out a bag instantly, and then you see some guys that struggle all week and they only get a couple of fish. It happens. The ones that pick the right plan, the ones that think about it through, the ones that learn stuff during practice are the ones that are more successful. Using that experience, using that knowledge to put yourself on a plan will always make you more successful. If nothing else, I hope that you guys realize that just by thinking about things at a basic level can put you on more fish. And I hope you guys see the results soon. That's all I got to cover today. I got any questions? I'm more than happy to answer any questions anybody's got. We do have a few more minutes till we're good to go. I know for me and me in particular, there's been days where I've planned stuff out to a T. Oh, hey, it's 100% just like this thing that happened 3 years ago. And I'll do it and I don't catch anything. Or my backup plan didn't even work. Okay, so try something else if you can, or just accept that that day you're not going to catch anything and plan again for another one. It happens. It's just part of it. Rhonda, I hope you're being careful driving. I know you said you're driving, so don't type back, but I hope everything's going okay with there. Again, Rustic, I hope your boat's not still stuck in the shop for forever. Big Slim, you going fishing today? Shirley, are you going fishing anytime soon? Hope you guys are. Avid, I hope you're doing well. Again, I haven't heard from you since early this morning, but I hope you're doing good. Hope you're going to get on some fish soon. Still waiting on those rod holders. Unfortunately, there won't be any fishing for me this weekend, but if you guys saw, I did fish tournament last weekend. Came in 5th place. Actually got on some fish on the kayak. It was fun. I did lose one fairly big fish due to being not prepared. Again, I've been fishing forever. I still make mistakes. I left some gear at home. It made a big difference. I could have landed another fish. I could have been in 3rd place very easily because I was only a couple pounds behind 4th place. But it's part of it, you know. I mean, you live and you learn. But like I said, today's by making a plan, following a plan, knowing what you need, all that good stuff, you can eliminate those situations and have them happen a lot less often. And it could be the difference between a full bag or a no bag, you know. I mean, I caught 2 fish that day. I hooked 3, and again, it was a decent fish. I'd say it was probably a 20-pound blue cat ish, and that would have made a big difference. But I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly what I saw. I remember exactly what I was using. And I'm ready to do that again. And I could very easily go out there and repeat that pattern. JG, good morning. Hope you're doing fantastic. We've been talking about setting up a game plan for the fishing trip, you know, using weather, information from fishing reports, past experiences, bait access, what's been running, what's not been running, was there a giant crawfish hatch this year? Was there absolutely none? Have the skipjack been running? Have they been hiding? You know, has anybody seen a skipjack in the last 3 years? Stuff like that. You know, if you have access to bait, then the fish have access to bait. So if you have a ton of night crawlers around, well, the fish are probably eating night crawlers too. It's going to be a good bait. But at the same time, if you have a shad die off, you know, a month ago and you haven't seen any since, well, you probably don't need to be using shad for bait. You're probably better off using bluegill or something else because it's available and they've seen it, right? Using that information, setting up a plan to get out there, pick a few spots, and just fish can make the difference between having fish and not fish. Sorry, having fish and not having fish. But then, you know, learning what you do on the trip and using it to your keeping it in your knowledge for the next trip so you can plan it out. Oh, hey, this spot didn't work this time of year. I'm gonna try this spot instead. Hey, this spot was completely flat and had no structure, but it had one transition line. I had one bite on the transition line. Okay, cool. How many other spots can you find that have transition lines that maybe have more structure than the one you were just at? You know, stuff like that. using that information to make your next trips more successful by having a repeatable pattern is going to make you more successful. Bugman, good morning. I'm glad you're up early. Hope you're not tired. I hope it's a good reason to be up early. Appreciate it, JG. I really do. I'm not gonna say I have this thing down pat. I'm still learning stuff, but I feel like it's a pretty good setup for now, without majorly changing things. But yeah, if y'all got any questions, let me know. If you got any comments, let me know. If you got any concerns, let me know. I'm here to help people, and if I'm not helping people, then I'm doing something wrong. I want to know about it. I'm trying to get people into the sporting fishing that weren't into it in the first place. I'm trying to help new anglers actually get into some good information in a hurry. I've been fishing for what I say 28 years the other day or something like that. Actually, it's been longer than that. How old am I? Yeah, 28 years. That's right. Uh, since I was like 3 or 4, I had fished with my dad when I was a very tiny kid. Been in fishing ever since. Uh, I want people to be able to use the information that I have without having to use 28 years to find it all. That's the whole point of this. JG, I'm sure it'll come out well, man. I really do. The setups can get extremely expensive in a hurry. I try to keep mine on the cheap side. So far, I think in my setup total, I have like $150 or $200 total into it. So it's not terrible. And it sounds pretty good. I mean, I'm just using my phone for the camera. I'm using this microphone, which I got for $55. Came with the whole setup, including the boom arm. And I got a couple of cheap studio lights, one for the blue light behind me and one for the white light above my head. Nothing crazy. Works well. Later on, I have a giant oak chest thing I got to get rid of. Once I get rid of that, I'm going to readjust this room a little bit more so it's a little more to my liking, and the echo won't be as bad. The audio quality will be better. But for now, I can't complain. It works pretty good, and it didn't cost me an arm and a leg entirely. This next, for you guys that are in here, the next episode is going to be Sunday next weekend. And then the weekend after that, it'll either be a pre-recorded show or I'll do it on Sunday as well. I haven't decided yet. But we have a fishing convention a couple hours away that my wife and I are going to go to on that Saturday. So I might do a pre-recorded show where I'm just chilling in the comments while we're on the way up there or while we're there. So I can still talk to you guys and whatnot. Or maybe I'll just do one at the convention itself. The audio might not be great, but maybe we could do a small tour of the convention or something. And we'll see. We are starting to come to a close on the Anyone Can Fish series. Like I said, I can't remember if this is episode 6 or 7. I want to say it's 6. The next one, I plan on talking about maintenance on equipment and stuff like that, so that you guys, the gear that you have bought, the gear that anybody who's new has bought, they need to be able to keep it good and keep it clean and keep it working. So that way they're not having to spend a bunch more money. Because the whole point of this was to show them a cheap way to get into the sport and to keep it at a level where they could still be successful without breaking the bank. But part of that is keep maintaining your gear, making sure it all works the way it's supposed to and all that good stuff. And then after that, we'll do some more, start doing some more oddball topic stuff. And what I plan on doing at that point, rather than this one was a series for sure, but on the next one, I plan on doing more stuff. Oh, hey, maybe this week do catfish, the next week do bass, the next week do something else. Cycle through them all. And I don't know, I haven't decided all that part yet. But as for the beginner series, we're almost done with it. But again, I've had people reach out, tell me that it's been helping out, and it makes my day. I'm glad they're able to take this information and put it to good use. Hope you guys are too. I mean, I know some of you guys are absolutely been fishing longer than I have, know way more than I do. But I still appreciate you being here, learning stuff, commenting, giving me some more information to tell people that I may have forgotten, all that good stuff. It's all very helpful. And you guys mean the world to me. So another thing, if you missed some past episodes, starting tomorrow, I'm caught up on editing those. So all the previous episodes up till today will be released tomorrow on an edited and polished version. Um, but then the ones that you're watching right now will be next Sunday. It'll be when the polished version is released. So if you're not able to watch the whole thing during the week, you'll have the polished version with just the information available for you to watch on the podcast tab on the Yakkity Outdoors YouTube channel. So if you guys missed today's episode, it'll be available next week to rewatch, or you can just watch the replay on this if you want. But like I said, I know that some of them get pretty long. Like the one from a couple weeks ago was an hour and 8 minutes to start with. I got it condensed down to 50 minutes of information. So that save you a little bit of time. All that good stuff. And you're right, JG. We're never too old to learn, right? I'm learning stuff every day. I'm learning fishing stuff every day, even still at this point, even though I've been doing it for 28 years. It's just oddball things here and there you didn't think about or never experienced. Time on the water says a lot. You can only learn so much from other people's experiences or from reading books or studying stuff like that. There's a certain level of depth on the information that you'll never get without being on the water yourself. It's just a matter of, again, taking that information that you've learned or gained and using it on a repeatable pattern to maintain success or increase success and hopefully catch the fish of your dreams. Some people want to catch a ton of fish. Some people want to catch a big fish, Well, in order to catch that big fish, you either have to cycle through all the little fish or learn absolutely everything there is about that species and be in the perfect scenario with the perfect bait at the perfect time, having that perfect plan to get it. And again, there's always a one-offs, right? If you're bluegill fishing, all of a sudden you catch you catch a bluegill, all of a sudden a 10-pound bass swallows your bluegill you're reeling in. Well, it happens, right? But it's not a pattern because it's not repeatable. You can intentionally try to mimic it, but there's no guarantee for that success. With that being said, I hear my kid waking up. So, again, you're watching the Yakkity Yak Fishing Podcast. Today we talked about setting up a game plan, a pre-trip, during trip, and post-trip strategies, using those to be able to get success and maintain success, and then reusing it later on to be able to give you success on other trips. Whether it be you're fishing a river or a lake, it does not matter. Whether you're fishing from a boat or from the bank, it does not matter. Having that plan set up from the get-go, thinking about where to go, thinking about what bait to use based on what's available, looking at the weather and seeing how it's going to affect the water clarity, water quality, your comfort. Because if you're not out fishing, then obviously you're not going to catch anything, right? Being comfortable out there is a big deal. And then having that information you got from other people of showing you where to start or what to use, it all affects the plan. But when you had the plan dialed in, you were going to be more successful on the water from the get-go. You're more likely to catch more fish, and you're more likely to catch the fish of your dreams. I hope that works. That I know this will work for you, but I hope you get to put it in practice soon. I hope you do get on some fish soon. If you have been fishing, I'd love to hear about it. Please put it in the comments below. Let me know what you did, whether it worked for you or not, and what you plan on doing different next time. Or if you're going to use the same thing, let me know you're going to use the same thing. I do want to hear about it. If you got any questions or concerns for the show, you can always email me at yakshoreoutdoors@yahoo.com. If you're interested in supporting the show or doing any kind of giveaway or anything, you can email me at the same address. We can talk about it. But yeah, my name is Anthony. You're watching the Yakkity Yak Fishing Podcast. Thanks for thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you guys next week. And remember, next week's show for those that are watching the live is going to be on Sunday instead of Saturday. But again, everybody, hope you have a good day. Get out there on the water, get some fish. Let me know how it goes. Tight lines. David Smith, thanks for swinging in at the last minute. don't get too hot today. I don't know if you're working or if you're off, but it's still gonna be hot today. Like I really, really wanted to go fishing today, but after talking to my wife, we're gonna go visit some family instead, stay in the AC because it's gonna be rough, and I can't justify taking the kiddo out in that kind of heat. Shirley, you too. Everybody else in here, thanks for coming in. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. And I'm sure I'll talk to some of y'all during the week, but if not, I will see y'all next weekend. So take it easy. Be safe. Big Mike, good morning. And I will catch all of you later.